I'm Travis Brown, founder and CEO of Mojo Up Marketing and Media. And this is my podcast where I talk to the most successful Black and brown business executives who've broken through the barriers of today's business culture. Welcome to Mojo Up Live. I'm your boy Travis Brown, and today I'm excited because I have a special friend that's coming on with us today. Now, she is a wife, she's a mother, she's a recovering attorney, she's a businesswoman, and a football fanatic for her son. So please help me welcome my friend Heather Bolejack Smith.
Thanks, Travis.
Thanks for being here today.
Oh, I'm excited.
I know we've talked about this because I was going to do this a long time ago, and I always knew you'd be one of my guests. So I want to just come right out the gates and ask this. So we connected years ago in the speaking world. So I want to know, so is speaking, training, like being on stage, is that still one of your favorite things to do in this world?
Next to being Sterling's mom, probably. But, you know, as I started to evolve in my career, which we'll talk about, I had to convince people that I could do more than that. Mm-hmm. If you are a dynamic speaker, facilitator, trainer, coach, and you are, sometimes the brand becomes so strong that people don't see you doing anything else. Mm-hmm. And so when I moved into leading teams of professional trainers, in an interview, I actually told someone, I said, so listen, you know, Beyonce doesn't just sing and dance, and I don't just sing and dance. I can write, I can produce, I can coach, I can lead. And that was when the light bulb went on for people interviewing me, because as part of corporate interviews, I would have to facilitate. Mm-hmm. And they would see that and say, can this person be happy not being on stage? Mm-hmm. And I never thought that that gift would be a potential barrier. Mm-hmm. But when I said, you know, and you know how I am, it's real direct. It was the look like, I can do more than sing and dance. Mm-hmm. And it was, because we'll talk about it, because also, frankly, I felt like as a Black woman, in certain settings, it was, well, is she an entertainer? Mm. And first and foremost, I'm a leader, and I was born to lead. And my gift for speaking is just one way that I can lead and move people.
See, what I love about knowing you and hearing you, and one of the first times I heard you speak, you talked about getting off the couch. Mm-hmm. And, you know, this is, what, 12 years ago, probably, 10, 12 years ago when I heard you talk about this. And it just stuck with me. I want to take you back a little bit because you have a fascinating journey, overcome a lot of adversity. And I want to just kind of set that stage a little bit. So first of all, give me where you're from and how you were raised, kind of what was growing up like, as I call you, HB. What was growing up like HB?
So I'm from Indianapolis. I grew up, though, in Avon, Indiana, which at the time was completely rural. The big thing was when they finally got a McDonald's. So this is the 80s in Avon, Indiana. And my mother is white. My biological father is Black, but he did not raise me. They were married briefly, and my stepfather came to the picture when I was about 4 years old, and my parents got married. So my stepfather, who is a white man, adopted me, and he's my father. I mean, I only say those words when someone asks for my background so that they understand technically who he is, but that's my dad. You know, Dale is my father. So I was adopted. So there I am in Avon, Indiana. I am the only Black little girl in the entire school system in the 80s. And I have these two white parents. And at the time, I remember when the movie version of Annie came out. And then there's the story of adoption, of course. So kids start asking me, you know, are you adopted? And they think I'm adopted as in I was given up for adoption. Both of these parents, they're saying, are not my biological parents in any way. So there were just always questions. Everything from the way I looked, you know, the hair touching, all of that. I mean, there was nobody who looked like me. And I remember my first two really good friends at school as a little girl, like this is elementary school, because I was also an athlete and I was a gymnast. So a lot of your friends, when you are a very serious gymnast, and I was, are at the gym. But my friends were the other little girls who were different. One little girl was Indian, and the other little girl was born with fingers that weren't fully formed. And she would have painful skin grafts. This is like first, second grade, to elongate her fingers. But she was this phenomenal artist. And she would win all these coloring competitions, and I couldn't color to save my life. Like, you know, and that's probably a theme. I could never stay inside the lines.
It was already speaking. It was already speaking, right?
Happened. And always in a hurry. Yeah. So I was drawn to her talent. But when I've looked back, it was like, of course they were. You know, there was this commonality of being made fun of for being different and standing out.
Let me ask you a question. So, like, when I hear somebody has that kind of starting story, right? You know, I have not that story, but I know and have spent a lot of time in my life as being the only, and looking around, not seeing people look like you, the questions, the doubts, the concerns that brings. And a lot of people I have this conversation don't understand that, right?
Right.
So as you think about through your journey now, through life, to even to get to the professional world, which we'll talk about that, like how much did that experience impact that?
Oh, it shaped everything. It's all that is, I think, unique in a positive way about me. And there are some really deep wounds when things happen, and you know, trigger's a big word now. You're getting triggered, so I guess that's what it is. Yeah. But it's just always been. It's also shaped how I perceive other experiences, where it can take me right back to the little girl who's the only. But I think the most positive is that my mother, I never went through the confusion about who I am. So I refer to myself starting out as a black woman because my white mother raised me that way. She said the world sees a black girl. And yes, you're biracial, but this is what the world sees, you know, when they look at you. And there was no mistake about it. My first day of kindergarten, I can see his face. I walked into the classroom, and this little boy with this platinum blonde shock of hair walked up and was almost nose to nose with me and used the N-word. And I had never heard it, but I knew that it was meant just for me. I just knew, you know, that was bad. So I would come home, I would cry every day. And there were two things that my parents told me that I've carried with me. And again, it's my strength, and sometimes it's my burden. One was my father telling me that you have to stop crying, or they're going to keep bringing it on. They're going to bully you more. And so that's that side of me, you know, that could just go to like zero emotion. It makes me competitive. It's been a strength, but it also can make it challenging for people to connect with me or understand who I am, that I am fun and all those things, because I just learned very early to just turn all that off to protect myself. My parents just wanted to keep me safe. And the other was my mother telling me, you're going to have to be twice as good. She knew another white woman who had a biracial child when we were in Chicago when I was younger. And she said, listen, Heather's going to struggle in the black world. She may not be accepted. You know, this is 1974. In the white world, she certainly is going to be seen as black. She's going to have to be twice as good. Average won't be good enough. And so my refrain has always been this: average isn't good enough. So it's been a positive. I think it was behind the entire career journey. Right,
because you're, you know, before I ever met you, you know, you had this piece of your career going to law school, becoming an attorney, and like that's not easy by any stretch of the imagination for anyone. I want to kind of jump to that real quick and talk about, you know, your experience of going to law school, what that was like, and then there was a point that you became that, and now you're not. And I say now you're not, became it, now you're not, but you know what I mean? Like you were a practicing attorney, that was your thing, and now you're not. I want to transition to that too. So law school.
Yeah. So law school was just about making money, and law school was about not becoming a statistic, and law school was about being lost in undergrad and not understanding what to do with certain talents. People ask you what you want to do when you grow up, not let's do some assessment of what your gifts really are and show you the different career paths. It's not how it works. And so when I graduated from Butler University, by that point, I was a single parent. So my daughter Taylor, who is now 27, which is crazy, she was a year old when I entered law school. So I'm looking at her, and there were all these rumors flying when I was at Butler. I'm there on a full academic scholarship and had all this, quote, promise. And it's a funny thing when a young woman gets pregnant, it's, oh, what a shame. And they were literally heaping shame on me. Lots of people, from friends to sometimes family struggling with getting their head around this. And there were professors who had been talking about me, saying what she could have been. What a shame. I'm like, I haven't died. I'm just having a baby. If it's a young man, and there were situations like that, everyone rallies around this young man to make sure that his life stays on track, right? It's not, oh, his life is over. So that was that whole, well, average isn't good enough. We're not going out like this. I was very aware that statistics for single young black women who are mothers that are not good. And I just said, well, I'm really great at speaking. I'd done a lot of speech team things by that point. I'm an excellent writer, and I need to go make this money. I applied to law school on the last day. So it was a stop on the tour. I don't think I ever saw myself as a career attorney. It just made sense.
I don't know if I had to have somebody go and stand in front of a judge or a jury to kind of plead the case. I mean, as much as I know about you, that's one of the things I know that you could do.
Thank you.
But obviously you got through that.
Yeah.
And then now you're an attorney. It's like, hey, and I feel like there's a lot of status that comes with that accomplishment. No matter what level you are, how much money you're making, there's some status in there. So how did you use that status to then further your career and then kind of transition into even speaking?
That's true. People listen to you, and I enjoyed it. There are things I still miss about actually practicing and helping clients. How I use that status is success is about access. And the moment that I would say that I'm an attorney, and especially some of the firms that I was associated with, it opens doors when you're at banks, if you're trying to get your child, and I was, into private schools. It's very interesting, but it is the way the world works, like it or not. And so I was able to leverage that just to create opportunities. And along my path, I had an opportunity to then move into the public sector. Got appointed at 30 years old. I was one of the youngest women appointed to lead a state agency, one of the highest appointed African Americans in state government at that time, which ended up being a really interesting story that led to how you heard me speak about my story. And after that, I really had to survey, after really going through sort of career annihilation. You get these opportunities, you have to be careful. Every opportunity you get isn't meant for you.
God, before you said it, I was literally just thinking that in my head as your story. And I want to back up because I want to ask you this question going, so now you're an attorney, but you're also a black female. What was that like? It's
like being a unicorn. And it's like that still for many of us, depending upon where we are. Being a black female attorney and in large firm settings. So that's a very specific, there are different paths, but going through being a summer associate, those are highly sought after positions, working for some of the top tier firms in Indianapolis. You'd be at that time like one of two, and very few black partners. So there's this pressure of not only do I need to do well, and your family's counting on you because I've got Taylor, now I'm taking on all these responsibilities financially, and attorneys are expected to live a certain lifestyle. So I think you start trying to live up to what's expected. But the pressure is, if I don't succeed here, if I screw this up at this law firm, it's going to impact who's got next.
Isn't that a terrible burden that in some ways we're forced to carry? Because I say that's really my biggest pressure here in running an agency. It's like, I'm trying to pave a way. And there's two sides of it, right? There's one is I'm trying to make sure that I don't do it so bad that it's not even paved, like there's just no way for the next person. And then if you get to a certain level, then you're like, how do I pave it and make it easier, right?
Yeah.
But that burden to carry to make sure, like, I'm just trying to make sure I don't screw it up for everybody else. Like, and there's a side that says you shouldn't have to, but the reality is that's a part of being us. And so that's been a struggle for me. I heard you say it, and many other people that sit in this chair talking about that same thing. So let me ask you, you've paved the way, and you've done it in a lot of cases by your own trail. And so when I met you, you were talking about this get off the couch. You know, what was that about?
So the couch is where I literally went after I said yes to something that wasn't meant for me and was led by, I think, the wrong motivation, just the stepping stone. How can I make more money? High profile. And it feels great to be chosen. And one thing that I think we, as talented people of color in communities where there are still few, have to be really careful is people are going to choose you. And you have to really be clear about whether or not what they're asking of you was aligned with your vision, or do you even have one? And I think I was still just sort of floating. So I accepted this position, was appointed to lead a state agency in government. And after the end of the first year, I had won all these awards, you know, touted as one of the top leaders, won the Torchbearer Award, something I'd always wanted for women in leadership, in public service. So I won in that category. All these things are great, things are happening, right? And then I was fired. And I was publicly fired. And then talked about. At that time, blogs were just becoming a thing. And so people literally used my story, my name, and what was happening to me to stand up their blog following. It was vicious. I mean, think about sort of some of the worst social media postings you see out there. And that's what people were doing to me.
And so how did you overcome that mentally? Because some people, they don't get past it.
Yeah. And that was why I went to the couch for a while. I mean, I'm like literally on my couch because there's nothing you can do. People are able to take shots at you. These things are not true. You know, eventually through the process, the truth is going to come out. It did. No wrongdoing, but so what? I mean, I'm effectively destroyed at this point. So what I had to do is, one, I had to accept a reality that I could no longer open a door. Not the traditional doors of a law firm, a corporate role. That was really hard to accept, but it is the first step to taking your power back. And I just had to realize that damage to your brand, it can do that. And it was overnight. Everything I had built overnight was gone. We're talking about 31. Sterling had his first birthday. April, I get publicly decimated. June is my son's birthday party. We go forward like nothing's happened. Taylor's in school. You know, one of those schools you use your name to get her in. She's now getting all of the drama and being picked on at school because her mom's in the media. It was horrific. My husband didn't know what to do. I was literally on my own. To the extent somebody maybe would have wanted to help me, some of the most powerful people and influential in the community at that time, there was nothing they could do. So I had to take stock of what are my skills. I had to hire myself. I didn't plan on being an entrepreneur, but I said, okay, I'm going to go practice law. I'm really good at this, at being an attorney. And we're back to, I got to get this money. I mean, one thing that does help you is when you look in the faces of your kids. And that's what I had to do. And I literally got up off the couch and started researching, and I hired myself and just started putting one foot in front of the other.
I love that term. Like I've not used it. Like I had to hire myself. And I think that's a part of, like, I have to believe in myself.
Yeah.
And I think there's a part where people out there, you know, they want everybody else to believe in them. And that does feel good. But like, you got to believe in yourself. And that's this thing about entrepreneurship. And I never set out to be in this space either. It's not what I wanted to do. I didn't want to own the company. I wanted to have a corner office and, you know, just get paid and you know, work for Nike or something, you know. But you got to hire yourself. And now you've hired yourself several times. You've reinvented things. You've done stuff. You've been corporate. You know, you've settled into where you are now. So like, what's that version? Because I want to talk about your family a little bit too. But what's that version look like to now you got here and I've learned this, figured this out, and I'm good.
Yeah, that's why I'm not really having kind of a full circle moment, because, you know, the practicing law and hiring myself, that was just survival mode. And I paused and said, what did you say you always wanted to be when you grew up? So the thing about being sort of broken open, which is what can happen if you don't let it destroy you, it can break you open and take you back to childhood and the things that we used to pretend. So I was that person that would line all the stuffed animals up with a microphone and talk to them. And my mom got me a book at 17, the age my son is now, How to Make It Big in the Seminar Business, because I'd started to emerge through speech team as someone who was great at speaking. And I remember the sentence said, first point number 1, establish credibility. And I was like, well, I haven't done anything yet. So I kind of read on, but I put the book away, and I remembered that book, and that's what led me to go apply to a national seminar company where I met you.
Yeah.
To be a speaker.
Just think two rookies just kind of sitting there going, we came from our own place, our own experience, and we knew how to speak. We were just looking for stages, looking to create ourselves and really hone in our message and how we can empower people. And as I'm sitting here just listening to you, one of the things that's going through my head is like the empowerment opportunity that you still have today. And the story is yours and yours only. But there's so many stories that are similar in other people's world where they ended up on the couch. They ended up in the situation that they didn't know how they got to that spot, and they had to figure it out. I can't wait to tell somebody, like, you're going to have to hire yourself. Like, you're going to have to utilize that to get through the stuff, to get to a point that you can be okay. And so you've hired yourself, not only from speaking, but you climbed the corporate ladder, had a little bit of fun there, and proved that I still got it, and I can still go there. Dollar Tree, right?
Yes.
And did some executive stuff there, and now you've landed in a consulting role. Talk about that evolution to be in the spot you are now.
The same thing, sometimes we just keep resisting the universe, and I had a moment in corporate America where I just was broken open again. And I found myself at home, all the measurements say I'm succeeding, but I mean weeping, absolutely weeping. And the words that came out of my mouth were, I just don't belong. I don't belong anywhere. And that's that little girl. And then I literally, it took me about 30 seconds, Travis, and Corey, my husband, is just going, I don't know what to do. I am absolutely falling apart. And then I said to myself, you know what? I don't belong. I don't belong here, because I'm supposed to be the person outside of these structures being the advisor. That's where I started as a lawyer, but now I'm supposed to be in this other place where I'm not trying to fit myself into these roles that have to be shaped in a certain way within the four corners of a job description. I have so much more to offer. I know you love Jordan. I feel like I was Jordan on the bench. I feel like I was stealing. It's like, why am I getting paid more than I ever have before, but you'll only use 25% of my talent? And, a lot of people are okay with that. That feels so misaligned for me. And so I had an opportunity through Patricia Musariri, who owns Trends Inc., consulting firm here in Fishers. And we had been connected years ago by one of my mentors and hers, Bill West, who was at Mays Chemical during his career, and said, I really think you two need to meet each other. And so you see, it's always right in front of you if you have the courage to pay attention to it. And we kept running into each other, and I felt like now was the time. And yes, in some ways it's a leap of faith again, because you feel that you're letting go, but they really are golden handcuffs. And those days aren't promised, and there's been a lot of change happening there since I've left. So I think it's full circle. It's still scary because it does feel good to be associated with those great big companies who have put you in, director level roles, and I don't have a team. It's a little weird, but it's good.
So when you recap all that, I'm going to transition to, you have a baby boy that's a senior in high school. He's a baller playing football. I've watched him, training as a kid and working his work ethic. He's overcome so much. But you are that mom in the stands, you're all blinged out with the number, so how much have you just enjoyed being free to just enjoy his journey with, as you and your husband have come together just to enjoy that? What's that like, and what are you teaching him?
It's been great. I think one of the things that I'm teaching him, because he's watched, and we all talk a lot as a family. We don't talk to him like a little kid about career decisions and why I'm doing it. And one day I got really scared, and sometimes it's wrong, but you find yourself talking to your kids, but you're like, I don't know, I need somebody right now. And I said, Stu, I don't know if I've made the right decision. You know, you think this is the right thing to do? Because I was getting ready to sign this offer letter. And I said, I think I need you to talk me off the ledge. He goes, Mother, you're not happy there. You haven't been happy. It was really funny, but you know, he was right. Things are great, and it was time. But it's been wonderful to just have the freedom. You cannot put a price on that, the flexibility and freedom to do the things that I love, but be really present for all of his games. You know, this is it, senior year, and we'll be able to go to his college games at Holy Cross.
Because he just committed to Holy Cross.
Yeah, so I mean, that's really good, and you put all that time in. I think sometimes people who are younger, they just see this stage and they don't understand the path, but
the journey, yeah.
All that was worth it, because that corporate experience and the law firm experience, that gives me the credibility when we're sitting in front of big corporate clients to say, I've sat in those seats. I know what you're going through. Here's how we can help you. Mm-hmm. But I'm able to do that in a way that we live 5 minutes from Sterling's high school. He goes to Cathedral. And we're 5 minutes from there, and he's home every night, you know? I'm home.
I just remembered this. I just forgot about this. So, like, during COVID, as you and your husband Corey worked together,
oh, yeah.
I got to give him a shout out. So you guys are notorious for talking about the Smith office suites.
Yes.
And it's this banter going back and forth about the stuff that's happening. Like, how did you guys, and you post about this stuff, and people just read it and just die and just look at you guys and be like, you guys are some crazy ass people, you know? Well, how did that banter start around going back and forth with each other about the Smith office suites?
We need to do something with it. People were like, you two need a YouTube. Well, everybody got shut in during COVID, and suddenly your spouse or partner becomes your coworker, which gets really interesting. And if you don't find a way to laugh, I mean, there's some people whose relationships did not make it through that time.
Right.
And so it just became this social media outlet where I think Corey started it, and then I would have to reply because I'm like, he's just lying. He's just out here lying.
He's talking about the refrigerator, my coworker in the cubicle over there, AKA, which is really my husband.
Yeah.
You know, just going back and forth. It was just so fun to watch you guys go back and forth with each other.
It was fun, and I think that's been the nice thing about remote working or hybrid workplace is you can do those things, and you really realize the fake titles that we gave each other. He thinks he's a CEO. He's not, but we'll pretend that he is, and we have a good time. But it's really nice to be at a place where we're each at certain spaces in our careers where you can have more of a flexible work life. And I traveled as you did. Mm-hmm. I traveled for 5 years straight and lived out of a suitcase. And he had to do all of that with Sterling. So it's really good. They were all super tight. I said, it's okay. I'm going to get him back one day. I'll have Sterling back.
My boy's coming back. We're almost out of time. There's two things I want to do left, and one is to give you some hot seat questions, and they're just really kind of either a question or phrase. You just answer with one word that comes to mind, and then end with a final question. So first up, favorite place to vacation? Sedona,
Arizona.
Favorite city that nobody else probably even knows of that you've been to? Because as a speaker, we go to some cities.
Oh, that nobody. Oh, Burlington, Vermont. That was really cool.
Favorite restaurant?
Oh, there's so many. It's not here anymore. I used to love to go to Palomino.
Favorite New Orleans restaurant?
Oh, New Orleans Seafood and Spirits.
Favorite sports team?
Any team. The Saints.
Favorite college?
LSU.
What do you think about high school sports?
What do I think about high school sports? Oh my gosh.
High school sports.
High school sports need to be freed from the bureaucracy of current structures.
Holy Cross.
Gratitude.
My favorite TV show?
The Golden Girls.
Favorite movie?
Probably Glory.
Favorite Peloton instructor?
Jess Sims.
Favorite type of music?
Really ratchet hip hop.
Like how ratchet?
Like when I go on Peloton, I search for rides that have Knuck If You Buck in the playlist.
That's ratchet. So what is your hype song? Like you're coming on stage, hype song? Whoa.
by Black Rob.
Okay,
May he rest in peace.
she's a real one here.
I told you.
So my very last question is really, you know, when your dashes are complete, like what's the legacy? What did they say about Heather Bolejack Smith?
She made me think differently. She was an incredible mom, an awesome wife, a change agent, somebody who made a difference, somebody who gave back, and someone who left things a little bit better than the way she found it. I think that's probably it.
Well, I don't need to wait till your dash is complete to tell you that, but I believe all those things about you. I've really enjoyed to getting to know you, your husband, watching your kid, and just seeing the journey. And I'm so respectful of your journey and excited to see where it goes next.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
So to close this out, let's give it to her. Let her wrap it up. All you gotta do is you gotta grab the board.
Oh, I get to do that.
Yeah, you get to give it. It's the smash and it's a wrap right at the camera right there.
All right. It's the Mojo Up podcast. It's a wrap.